I'm going to do another song. And this one is also talking about the same thing. We are just broadcasting the message of love, yeah? And we are doing it differently. Let the righteous one be the first to throw the stone. Let the Holy One be the one to judge me. I know I'm not perfect, but you are not perfect either. Fena tulibana munyumba ya tata. Fena tulibana mumaaso ga Katonda. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, nawe oli mwana wa Katonda. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, gwe nawe oli mwana. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, nawe oli mwana wa Katonda. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, gwe nawe oli mwana. Bwe gwe amanyi ky'akolera, olina n'essi okunfumbira. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, gwe nawe oli tumfera. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, nawe mwana wa Katonda, gwe nawe oli mwana. We were all created in His image, sinawe. Katonda tasosola langi, obwoba n'ebibinga bingi. Ebyo by'olaba ebisinga biri okutwalula. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, gwe nawe oli mwana Bwana. Singami, ndi mwana wa Katonda, nawe oli mwana wa Katonda. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, gwe nawe oli mwana Bwana. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, nawe oli mwana wa Katonda. Ndi mwana wa Katonda, nawe oli mwana Bwana. Let the righteous one be the first to throw the stone. Let the Holy One be the one to judge me. I know you're not perfect, but you are not perfect either. Fena tulibana munyumba ya tata. Fena tulibana mumaaso ga Katonda. Thank you.
All right, guys. Infectious will return before the end of the day. We will definitely listen to him another time. Yes, I think we are now set. I've been informed that our watch parties are online. We just delayed a bit to try and get our watch parties online so that they are part of what is happening. And Gatito, is it fine now? All right. All right, so I'd want us to just welcome Alan to just take a few minutes to tell us what we're about before we invite Uncle Tim, who will be the first speaker today for a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. It's a joy to be here this morning. I would like to welcome everybody for joining us this morning for our 2020 Africa Youth Leadership Forum Uganda gathering. This is a virtual gathering. We normally do physical gatherings around this time of the year. And on this particular date, we would be somewhere in one of the hotels with about 100 and so student leaders from across Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, and South Sudan, and our friends from Ethiopia, and any other person that might be joining us. But today we can't all together meet physically as we used to do because of COVID. And yet COVID also has given us an opportunity to really be able to meet regardless of the difficulty not to meet physically. So I would like to welcome everybody who's joined us today. We have a small group of us here at Imperial Royal Hotel in Kampala to symbolize our tradition of meeting, of coming together in what we call the Africa Youth Leadership Forum gathering around the prayer breakfast. Tomorrow there is a prayer breakfast happening in Uganda. It's going to be a virtual one also, and it will be happening somewhere in Entebbe. But for us, we want also to join them as a pre-event to the prayer breakfast, to invite all our friends from Kenya, from Tanzania, from Rwanda, from Burundi, from DRC, from South Sudan, who are joining us in smaller pockets of people sitting together like we are doing right now to join us in really upholding this tradition. This is our 14th gathering. From 2007 up to this date, we have held an annual gathering every year in Uganda. It's part of the activities of how we are structured in Africa Youth Leadership Forum, in small groups of university student leaders and students, meeting regularly on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis at their campuses to interact with each other, to get to know each other better, but also to learn and challenge themselves on the issues of leadership, to form relationships that may become partnerships and alliances as they grow in the area of leadership. Those are the relationships they rely on to carry on their visions. We challenge ourselves to live a life that what we say, we do it. What we do, we walk it out there. So this is really an opportunity for us, again, to come together to highlight the importance of our friendships across the region. So I want to welcome everybody. Our speakers are here, and those who are going to be here in the panel, they are all here. And, of course, we also have our Uncle Tim. He's virtually not here. But as you know, guys, that his heart cannot, even if he's virtually, he wants to be right here with us. But because of COVID, we would like him to be where he is, but he will be with us. And this time, not recorded. He will be live, speaking from his home to us all across the region. So I want to welcome you all friends from Kinshasa, from Goma, from Uvila, from Bukavu, from Butembo, from Beni, from Bujumbura, from Kigali, from Nyagatare, from Dar es Salaam, from Arusha, from Nairobi, at Nairobi Club. In Uganda, we have a watch party at Cornerstone Development, and across the other towns in Uganda. We just want to welcome everybody to this event. So I don't want to waste any more time, but I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Tim Kruter, who is going to be speaking to us from his home, to everyone. He's speaking to you, a few people here, but he's speaking to more than 100 or 200 people who are watching him live from wherever he is. This event is live on AYLF Facebook page. You just look for Africa Youth Leadership Forum Facebook. You will see. There are many, but you will see Africa Youth Leadership Forum with a picture, a profile picture says celebrating 10 years. And you'll be able to watch us. Also on YouTube, AYLF Uganda, you can find us there. But for now, look us up on our Facebook page. You'll be able to see us. Those of you that are here, you don't need to look it up. But those of you who are out there, the link, you have it, and we are going to send it out to you if it's not yet come to you. It will be on my WhatsApp number status. Please find it and join us in the conversation. We want to welcome Tim right now, and he will be speaking to us from his home. Tim Kruter, you are welcome to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I'm hoping that all of you can hear me. Do I have confirmation on that? Can you hear me okay?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now? Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Morning, Tim.
Now it sounds like you can hear me. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Well, let me just launch into my talk this morning. I think I'm the first one who will be speaking, so I'll be giving a little bit of an introduction to Aylf and a little bit of touching on our theme for this week or for this year. We are trying to manage this situation we're in. As all of you know, it's the unusual time, but every year at this time for the last 10 or more years, we've had this Aylf gathering, and we just felt like one way or another we should do it again this year. Our theme for this year was chosen to be a leadership that is anchored on values, and I'll be speaking to that, but also giving you some of the what we call the Aylf Dna. Typically when we do a gathering like we've done in past years, more than half of our participants are new. But this time it's different. I think most of you have been around Aylf before, so it'll be more of a review of our vision and our values. It's important when we gather just to come back to change over time. And if we don't revisit it and keep it pure, we can drift away from its original conception and its original design. But yes, my name is Tim Kreuter. I'm talking to you from Kampala, Uganda, where I've been throughout this COVID time. My wife and I are dual citizens, Uganda, US, and I'm a co-founder and managing director of Cornerstone Development Africa, and also a co-founder and patron mentor to Aylf. I'm based in Uganda, but just as Aylf works throughout the 7 countries of the Greater East Africa, that's also the scope of my work. The young people of Africa have been one of my greatest inspirations. I grew up in East Africa, and just seeing the way that young people are struggling here to come up, to establish themselves, and to influence their nations inspires me to keep mentoring the next generation of emerging leaders. And it's what I've been doing for the last 30 or so years, and hopefully I'll still be around for about another 30, inshallah, God willing. And I want to also just make myself to be available as a mentor to all those who pass through Aylf. I bring you greetings from my family. On this picture, the lady holding the baby is Dani, who's married to my son Eric, and they have their 2 kids. They're also in Uganda with us during this time. Our daughter, who's married, is in the US, and her little boy just celebrated his first birthday just a few days ago. We thank God they've also been saved from this coronavirus, which has hit the US pretty hard, as all of you know, even including our president, who is suffering some effects of it right now. I'll give my contacts later at the end, but these are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. If you would like a copy of this presentation, copy that email address that's at the bottom of the screen, and I'll be able to send it to you. So you send me an email requesting it on timkreuter@gmail.com, and I'll send you a copy. Yeah. So let me, for the sake of time, just continue quickly. I'll talk for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions. But our theme this year is leadership anchored on values. Another way to put it would be a leadership that is built on a foundation of strong values. And it's connecting to one of the parables of Jesus that's found in Matthew chapter 7. Yeah, this year has not been an easy year for us, 2020. The last few months have been something that we have never seen in our lifetime, even me, who's older than most of you. It's almost like we are fighting World War III But the good thing is this time we're not fighting each other, we're fighting an invisible enemy, which, thank God, we have to, part of what AYLF is trying to do is to get beyond these conflicts and these divisions that have created the wars that have set humanity back so much. During this time of COVID, I've been speaking about overcoming the storms of life. And storms tend to cause some disorganization, some chaos in the environment. But storms are often part of larger cycles which we cannot see, and there's a way that they can restore balance by shifting things around so that new things can emerge. And I also trust that God is doing something like through this pandemic. I hope you can all hear me. Are you hearing me okay? Is everything coming through fine? Okay. It seems like it's okay, so let me go back to the presentation. As I said, we are basing this theme on a parable of Jesus about the storms of life. He said, whoever hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. So leadership anchored on values, it applies to this, and it's a familiar story. Jesus talked about two men, one built on a rock, one built on sand, and when the rain and the storms came, the one who had built on sand had his house swept away. I've always liked this particular verse, in part because it connects to our philosophy at AYLF. If you look at the beginning of it, Jesus said, whoever or anyone or whosoever. It's not just for Christians, not for Muslims, not for Jews, but anyone who hears these words, these principles of Jesus, these values, and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on a rock. So that's what we're talking about today. When storms come, they do cause quite a bit of disruption, but they're a natural part of life. One of my mentors, Michael Timmis, many years ago, he made the comment, he said, the storms in life will always keep coming. And he's, some 15, 20 years older than me, and I was taken aback when he said it because I realized that there's never a time in life when there will be no storm. So we always have to be prepared. This COVID storm caught us unaware, some of us, but storms come to teach us something. Especially as leaders, storms test our strengths and they expose our weaknesses and they force us to develop strong roots. But generally, we could say that storms teach us the importance of investing. Investing is having the capacity to withstand the unexpected in the future. So it's not just investing financially, but also investing in relationships. And this is a huge part of AYLF DNA. The small groups that we have, the lifelong friendships. For many of you who are young leaders, this is probably the most important thing you need to add to your life. Many of you have struggled to get where you are through your own strength, but to go to the highest levels of your potential and the highest levels of influence, you will have to learn how to bond and partner with a group of others. You can never do it on your own. So, these storms are natural, and when we have a house that is built on a rock, we can withstand storms. There was an experiment in the US, it was out in the desert. It was a structure, a building they called the biosphere, and they created a living environment for plants and for animal life. So they created this thing maybe so that maybe when human beings go to the moon or something, they have a facility where they could live. So people lived in this thing for some months. It had all the air, the water, the soil, the perfect conditions to grow trees, vegetables, and fruits. But something funny was happening in this biosphere. When the trees reached their full height, they would just collapse. They would fall over. And the scientists took time to figure out why is it that these trees are just collapsing for no reason. And eventually they discovered that inside this structure there was no wind. There were no storms, and it was the wind that was causing trees to develop deep roots. And we as human beings are much like those trees. We don't like it when the storms of life push against us. But it's these experiences that actually develop our character and that deepen our spiritual roots. And when we grow deep, we too can stand tall and strong through the years. But yeah, this morning we're focusing on a leadership anchored on values, and I'll be speaking briefly about the DNA and values of AYLF. But let me just take a moment to just give a few introductory remarks about the word values. The way we are using it today for this gathering, it really means that hold in high regard. So values are those principles, those standards that you live by, that you can see in the picture. There's a photo of a compass. So a compass is something that gives us a sense of direction. It gives us the direction that we need to move in. And core values are something that are almost permanent. They hardly fluctuate. They become the real compass. Without them, you can just be ruled by temptations, emotions, popular trends. But once you have identified and clarified your core values, then the challenge that we all have, myself included, is to live those out consistently. And I think this is what is meant by a leadership that's anchored around values. So values are those principles that we consider of great importance. The beliefs are things that we were told growing up in our families and our religions, and attitudes are the way that we manifest and display those through our behaviors. So many of our basic values, we get them from childhood, but they're reinforced or modified through the friends, the social influences, and our life experiences. And this is why, again, it's very important to have a small group of like-minded friends that you're going through life with, because we need that reinforcement, and we need some modification of our values. All of us have picked up some values from maybe a subculture or a small group that we are around growing up that need to be modified, that need to be purified. And out of the formation of our personal values comes the way that we live our lives. In my family, the value of service beyond self was imposed on me right from my parents. My parents were missionaries in Africa, and it was reinforced throughout early childhood. But I had to kind of modify it and adjust it so that my own values were my own, and not just what I picked up from our family. When people look at this, where do we get our values? They list things like the family, the friends, the religion, the schools that we went to, even the books that we read, the media, the internet, the culture around us. And the last point on this slide is interesting. Some of our most important values are formed from the age of 10 years. So you can see these things are deep in us. But I would add another one, and it's the bit over on the right there, that on the right side of the screen. I think some of our values are hardwired into us. They're part of our programming on the level of our souls. I believe that we come here to planet Earth, and there's a mission that we are entrusted to carry out. There's an assignment that God has for us. So some of our values are actually deeper than just what we pick up from environment. They're actually within us, and you can see someone who has a very strong passion, or it's like it's inbuilt within them. It's more than just what they got from the wider society. I would just add that thought. But yes, values tend to create our attitudes, and attitudes tend to create our behavior. And part of what makes up our values is our beliefs that we get through our culture, our faith, our education, and so forth. So it's a complex story of how values are formed and how they are acquired, but the task is given to each of us to clarify, examine our values, and build our leadership around timeless, eternal principles that have stood the test of time. Stephen Covey said, peace of mind comes when your life is in harmony with true principles and values, and in no other way. So there's something within us, I think he's saying, that tells us when we are living a chaotic life, when we are living a life that lacks integrity, and we know that we are violating our own values. We'll never have peace. There'll be something that is disturbing us and telling us, I think we are off here or there. So this is a nice quote to remind us that these things are very important for our own peace of mind. I like this quote also by Mandela. Mandela said, in judging our progress as individuals, we often tend to concentrate on external factors, such as our social position in the society, our influence, our popularity, our wealth, our standard of education. That's how we normally value ourselves, and other people value us based on that. But Mandela goes on to say that the internal factors, not just these external ones, but the internal factors are probably more crucial in assessing one's development as a human being. Things like honesty, sincerity, simplicity, humility, generosity, absence of vanity, and readiness to serve others. And then he adds that such qualities, or we could say values in this context, are within easy reach of every soul, and they are the foundation of the spiritual life. So you can see our wise statesmen and mentors are pointing us to something internal that is steady, that is not just based on the prevailing winds of the trends of society, that is deeper. And that's what the word leadership anchored on values. Now, as I conclude, let me just talk about the DNA and values of AYLF. And when we're talking about the DNA of AYLF, we're talking about keeping the vision, the philosophy, the values, and the vocabulary pure and consistent over the years as we multiply and grow, so that mutations that lack the integrity of the original concept are kept. There are two kind of extremes that often happen. We can pull AYLF toward a particular religious subculture that we are most familiar with, and we lose the aspect of inclusivity. In AYLF, we're trying to have inclusivity. We're trying to create common ground across divisions. But sometimes groups that do that can make their initiative so secular that they lose the spiritual power behind it. So we're trying to look at all aspects of life, and many leadership programs today, they're just leaving out the spiritual aspect, or they only represent it within the context of one denomination. So those would be like the two mutations that can often affect our DNA. But when we lose that spiritual aspect, our lives become more diverted toward material acquisition, sensual pleasures, and just the pursuit of fame and power. All right, so with AYLF, we believe in you guys. You, the student leaders, young leaders of today. You are the emerging leaders coming up right now. Right now, we have many AYLF members who are contesting in the Uganda elections that are taking place at this season. And you will gradually emerge as leaders in the years to come. I think in the next Uganda Parliament, which is in the process of being reformed, there will be half a dozen AYLF and Cornerstone members of Parliament who've had this kind of exposure. Yesterday, my wife was meeting with one of the LC3 counselors in Kololo, Kampala, where we live, and she was telling them that my husband, he's in the area of leadership development for young people. And this was an LC3 counselor, and she said, but we who are elected leaders, we have never had a course on leadership. We lack these things. At least also consider us. But with AYLF, we want to give you the trainings, the inspiration that you need. And that's part of what we are doing today, bringing role models like some of the speakers who will be speaking to you and helping you stay connected with like-minded peers. That one is extremely important. All the studies on values show that they are reinforced by your closest friends. Who are the people walking through life? Those are the ones that are having probably the biggest effect on your values. So AYLF has spread over the region, over 100 campuses. We normally have 3 big gatherings a year. The Uganda one takes place in October, and that's what we are trying to represent today. And we have different aspects of the vision and the mission. We have different methods and approaches that we use, and different curriculum that we offer. So we just encourage you to dig into this, to study it, and to pass it along to others. And of course, at the very end of this screen, you can see the word prayer breakfast. We have operated like the youth wing of a wider movement, which is called the National Prayer Breakfast. There will be one taking place tomorrow, a very small one at State House in Tebe. I'll be going for it. All of us, they only invited 70 people. We had to go through a COVID test. I was at Parliament on Tuesday to get my test. I don't know if I'm negative or positive, but I've been invited. I'll be going early tomorrow morning. But yeah, with AYLF in a nutshell, our goal is to try and transform the leadership culture, especially at the university level in East Africa, because that's where many of the young political leaders are groomed in this part of the world, and to develop that new breed of leaders that we talk about, leaders of integrity, leaders who are more unity-minded and constructive and collaborative in their methods. And so we have had these AYLF gatherings over the years. It's just been fun for me to be part of them, and to just still be connected with you guys in this way. So much of our strength revolves around staying connected, and I would just encourage you. And that's one of our pillars, lifelong friendship. It's number 3 on this list, making sure that you form deep bonds with a few others. If you examine history over and over, you will see that history is shaped by those who can form strong alliances with a few other people. It's always been that through any society if you analyze it. But the first one is aspect here, the pillar of leadership, or you can say influence or having a vision for a better world. The aspect of integrity is the second. And then the last one, aspect of reconciliation and unity across all the divisions in the spirit of Jesus, which I'll explain a little bit later. But let me just say that AYLF is first and foremost, it's a forum, Africa Youth Leadership Forum, or you could say in collaboration with that's all good. We're just seeing ourselves as a space where like-minded, visionary, principled, value-based young leaders can meet, can talk, grow, and dream together. But every movement has to have a clear set of shared values. You can't have a movement without a set of shared values to keep it strong over the years. Shared values being values that are held in common by the group. And it's not easy to find solid or ideological ground across all the divisions that exist in our world. which can still serve as a basis for inspiration, reconciliation, and reflection, as well as a model for leadership. But we have kind of come up under the mentorship of a larger group called the U.S. Prayer Breakfast Movement, and some of its founding fathers landed on an idea that the prayer breakfasts are based on, and that is that the simple, basic precepts of Jesus allow for that shared values to be formed across divisions, because you get a level of buy-in on the teachings of Jesus from all the different Christian denominations, as well as sincere Muslims and people of other faiths who recognize the universality of Jesus' message, and they see him in different ways, but they respect him and they admire him. So the prayer breakfast friends discovered that if we take the principles, precepts, and person of Jesus as our common ground, we can find shared values that unify us across our divisions. And when another man who was part of that was Abram Ferrady, and he saw that if people in leadership could meet despite their differences around shared values in the spirit of Jesus and hold each other accountable to his basic core principles or values, they could bring change to their cities. So what are these values that we're talking about? That human beings, they're quite simple, they're self-evident to all sincere people, that human beings need a change of heart from being selfish to loving others. Jesus talked about loving your neighbor, that was the greatest commandment after loving God, and even loving your enemies. So if the world really practiced this, you could see the incredible transformation that would take place. He said it was better to love than to hate, that it's better to forgive than to seek revenge, that we should do unto others as we would want them to do to us. A weekly small group, talk to your AYLF Connect coordinator and join a small group, because it is revolutionary in terms of your own personal growth, but it is also extremely influential in terms of your capacity to create influence in the society. In my small group, we have a presidential advisor, we have former members of parliament, we have people working in government, so we have this strength just among ourselves that we could never have if we're trying to gamble life by ourselves, with so many young leaders try to do. Number 3, I talked about this. Jesus is our common ground. Number 4, we seek to work for reconciliation and unity across all that is dividing humanity. God is the Father of everyone. And if God is our Father, that means that each of you listening to this is my brother, is my sister. And we're trying to call people back to that understanding that we're all brothers and sisters because we share one Father. Number 5, to do this, you have to take the work of personal transformation seriously. You can't just talk and not work on yourself, to love like Jesus, to think like Jesus, to talk like him, and to act like him. That's what really makes this thing real, when people are real in terms of their own spirituality, their own transformation. Number 6, we have faith for a better world. Jesus' most popular theme, most common theme, was the kingdom of God, and he wanted to see that kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And this is a big motivation for me, to see that there is a better world is possible. Some people are very gloomy and pessimistic about the direction the world is headed, but Jesus told us there will be birth pangs before something new is born, and we look for that kingdom to come, and we believe that it will. Number 7, we focus on the essentials. So many groups are dividing themselves over small things, and they're neglecting the main thing. The main thing that Jesus said was the sum of all the law and the prophets, was just to love God and love your neighbor. He said that was the sum of the whole thing, and to treat others the way that you would want to be treated. So sometimes we mess up on the main thing, and we divide and argue against theologies that are peripheral. They're not the main thing. Number 8, the last one, we reach out to leaders, we develop leaders, but we're not aligned with any one political group or just looking at Jesus as our leader and taking his principles, his values as our common ground. We focus on leadership because everything rises and falls on leadership, and the leaders of this world are holding enormous influence of people. So the prayer of people, and that is really what we're continuing. And so, Aylf, in summary, lifelong friendships, inspiring each other, transcending the differences in the areas of corruption, and cultivate that spiritual side of your life to live out your highest and best values. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. That's my talk, and I hope it has been okay. I hope it has been clear. And yes, over to you guys who are hosting to take us through the next part of the program.
Thank you, team. If you can hear us, it's been okay. So thank you so much for speaking to us.
All right. I also just wanted to just recognize the audience that's watching online before we get into the next part. We have from Barara, Dalton and Newton have set up a group down there. Later on in the day, we'll be broadcasting a few photos so that you see them. Then Nancy Maisha will send you our regards with Chibaye, watching from Bukavu in DRC. They've set up a group there. And yes, thanks for being on. Yes, Atem and our brother John Machek, Lueth, from South Sudan, have also set up a watch party there, and they sent their regards on the broadcast. Yes, then we have our friends from Kenya, Molly, and the colleagues from Nairobi Club. Thanks for joining us. And she made a comment that I would want to read, and maybe Uncle Tim may just make an addition to it. And Molly from Kenya says, the greatest gift AYLF offers is to give young people a platform to grow and explore their potentials as they create genuine relationships borderlessly that positively impact their lives. I'm proud to be part of the family. There are no questions, but Uncle Tim will probably make a comment on that idea that AYLF gives opportunity for people to explore their potential and create genuine relationships borderlessly. Yes, and then all our friends, I'm sorry I can't read all of you, but like I said at the beginning, we have guys watching from Rwanda, Kigali, we have from Burundi at the Cornerstone House. We have to repeat that a bit again. We didn't hear you.
I'm not hearing you very clearly. Give me the thing that you want me to...
Okay, Lydian Molly commented and said, the greatest gift AYLF offers is to give young people a platform to grow, explore their potential, and create genuine relationships across borders. I just wanted you to expand on that idea that she was trying to share there.
Yeah, that's, I think in her mind, has put it very clearly, that it is a space. It's not just an organization, it's not just a project, it's an ongoing kind of relationship, and growth doesn't just happen when you're young, growth happens all through your life. I'm still growing